Hey everyone, and welcome back to our podcast where we discuss ideas about success, inspiration, and motivation. I'm your host Fahad Siddiqui, along with our co-host Ahad Ahmed. This week we are joined by Dr. Noeen Arshad, who is a board-certified pediatric dentist and an orthodontist. Dr. Noeen is originally from Pakistan and has trained in both the US and the UK. Despite having the opportunity to work in the US, Dr. Noeen chose to go back to his country and give back to the local community. In this podcast, we talk about his motivations to go back, the challenges he faced, and his ideas about capacity building. If you like this podcast, please show your support by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Enjoy the show.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Noeen. So good to have you here. So this is our podcast series that we have started 2 months ago, and you are the first guest in our series, and it's an honor for us. Why we have called you, of course, because the journey you have is so specific that you became a dentist, and then you came to the US, went back to Pakistan to practice dentistry, and then went to the UK, became an orthodontist, and then went to Pakistan again. So a lot of people are thinking that, is this really possible? Because everyone wants to go back, but then again, no one goes back really. So we just wanted to understand your journey, that how you did it.
All right. Yeah, nice to be here. Thank you for having me on your podcast. Good to know you, Fahad. It's the first time I'm meeting you. Ahad, I know you since a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, my journey has been, I would say, a little unique because obviously I trained here in Pakistan. I did my BDS here from Lahore, from Demont. And then, but I was one of those who just wanted to go and do some post-graduation in the US. So right in fourth year, I was all geared up. At that time, in those days, we didn't have any emails or anything. So, there were letter exchange back and forth between schools and all that. And my interest was actually to do ortho, frankly speaking. And I applied for ortho schools only in the US. And I was lucky enough to have 3 interviews lined up right in the middle of my house job, actually. So I interviewed at Harvard, at UPenn, and at Tufts. And the lady at Harvard, she told me that we will not have you in the program, but you should go ahead and do pediatric dentistry. And that is how, I think that was the change in my life. Like, sometimes you go and you think, no, I just want to do this. And then God have other plans for you. And
Right.
I think today, looking back at the last almost 28 years, I think that was the best thing that ever happened to me. So I did Pedo. I did it at Boston University, Dental School. And then after doing that, I came back to Pakistan. The reason basically was primarily my parents. And so I actually got married just before I left for the US. So me and my wife, we decided that we're going to go back. And I think I was quite naive as well. I mean, people back home, back in the US, like my friends who were doing advanced standing and all that, Indians especially, they were like, don't go back. Are you crazy? You can get a job here and, you can be a pediatric dentist and very successful and all that. And I said, no, I think I ought to go back. So came back. It was initially a struggle because everybody said that you won't be able to survive as a pediatric dentist in Pakistan. You have to do general dentistry. And I said, well, I mean, what's the point in specializing if you have to go back and do general dentistry? So I stuck to it. I just did Pedo, but I always wanted to do ortho. So that was the burning thing inside me. But at that time, I had run out of money, so I had no money to go back to the US. But luckily, I got a scholarship to go to Eastman in London, which again, I think for a Pakistani, being trained on both sides of the Atlantic, as I say, was nice because I had the British training and then I had the American training. So that was the training part. And then I came back again. At that time when I was in the UK, so that's the exciting part. I had 2 girls by then. And so this and Shanza were there. And I used to travel back and forth to Pakistan like every 6 weeks from London when I was training in the UK. So at Eastman. So on a weekend, I would come back for 2 days, practice and go back. Because I had to make money and my wife and the girls were here, my parents were here, obviously. So, and I would go back and just have enough money to buy myself a monthly pass. But then after 6 weeks, again on a bank holiday or an Easter holiday or a summer break or something like that, I would uh, fly back to Islamabad on a Friday night, be here on a Saturday morning, work the whole Saturday, work the whole Sunday. They would line up the patients for me. So these were mostly pedo patients. And then fly back on a Monday. Monday used to be a bank holiday there. So go back, reach there, and be at the school on Tuesday with my presentation at 8 o'clock in the morning sharp. So, and I was doing that all on the plane, flying back and forth.
Wow.
So that was the reason I'm telling you all this is because, people look back and they think like, wow, that was easy. Like, if he did it, like, but like I used to teach here as well in Pakistan. I used to tell my students like, there's no shortcut to success in life. So you have to work hard. And so, yeah, there's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of man hours put into all this. And there have been highs and lows of the professional life, personal life. And, but, the kids, I think the best part has been bringing up the kids in Pakistan and with their grandparents around. So that, I think retrospectively, when I look back, I think no money can buy that. I could have been a very rich, as you want to say, monetarily, if I was in the US. But I think the upbringing that the girls had over here with the grandparents.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think there's no money that can buy that.
Yeah.
So now, but what I've been doing all these years is I kept my contact with the US. So I did my, as Fahad would know, I took my Pedo boards. At that time, it used to be a 3-part thing: the eligibility exam, the qualifying exam, and then the cases that you would present. So I did all that over the years. Like it took a couple of years to actually do all that stuff. Then the ortho training was in between, so that happened. Then as late as 2014, I took my red exam.
I know the story, yeah.
Got my licenses and all that sorted out, because this was after me, like, you have to be here, you have to, you should get your license, and you have all the qualifications and everything. So, and lo and behold, as you know now, I'm shuttling between Virginia and here. So I have had this practice for 25 years. I work as a consultant at the hospital in Islamabad, the Shifa Hospital. And I only do pediatric dentistry and orthodontics. That's my specialty. Okay. My practice here is specialty based as well. We have an endodontist, we have an oral surgeon, we have a prosthodontist, we have two young girls who do hygiene and all that. So yeah, we're pretty okay here. But nice. I mean, what I'm trying to say, it didn't happen overnight. It took a long time. It took a long time.
Absolutely. That's what we want to learn from you. I'm saying that's what we really want to learn from you.
Haji, the thing is that in the US, because the system is geared up, people know what a pediatric dentist is. You get referrals. Here, nobody refers to a pediatric dentist. Right? Nobody refers to anybody for that matter here.
You mean in Pakistan, right?
Yeah, in Pakistan. So it all ought to be a word of mouth. You have to, make a place for yourself, reach out to the community. People find out, then the word of mouth spreads. But then that way it takes longer, much longer. So, I came back in 94. So, okay, if you want to add the 96 to 98, then when I did my ortho training, still been, 26 years. So that's a long time.
Right. So, Dr. Noeen, we can easily say that you were the first one to start pediatric dentistry in Pakistan, right? It would be safe to say, yeah. So, absolutely. Did you have a vision that you wanted to do this, or it just happened? Again, I actually wanted to know the challenges. So, for example, what were the challenges that you faced when you went back? Because I know that the PMDC and everything, because they have a lot of things going on, and how did you overcome them? Like, were you ready for that? When you applied to PU, or you had no idea?
No, so I was not ready for any of that. Basically, like I just said, I went to do ortho in the US. I couldn't get in. So, and at that time, I was like nudged towards doing pediatric dentistry, which was probably the best thing that happened to me professionally. I mean, had I not done pedo, I would not have been sitting here and talking to you. Pedo and ortho combination has taken me places, and we'll talk about where I've been in the world and practiced and whatnot and taught. You may probably know a little bit, but I'll explain a little more in depth. Coming back was a challenge working wise, yes, because people had no idea as to what pediatric dentistry is. I remember the guy I used to work with, he's still here, he's an oral surgeon trained in the UK. At his practice, somebody came, another dentist, and he said, he's a pediatric dentist. And this is a dentist talking to a dentist saying, oh, this is a pediatric dentist. Does he make enough money to survive? So, and he said, yeah, like, he's okay. Like, he does well. The thing is that you just have to believe in yourself and you have to hold the ground. And if you stay put in one place for a couple of years and just keep your blinders on and don't look right and left and just believe in yourself, and it just falls into place. A lot of patience, a lot of persistence, a lot of, I would say, challenges from PMDC. Oh, absolutely, because I got into academics as well. And they would say like, you're not board certified yet, you don't have a fellowship of the Royal College, blah, blah, whatever it is. So this is just a training in pediatric dentistry in the UK, in the US. So what is this? So at one point, then I said that there's no point like arguing with these guys. So I was doing the procedure of getting my board certification. Once I got that, I went back, and then it was like, okay, I mean, no questions asked. Same went with my the UK degree with the ortho, but I mean, I was in. See, the thing is that if you know that you can work, and people figure it out very soon, like if you're clinically strong, the right qualifications and everything, then these things really don't matter. Like, especially if you're not yourself clinically strong or you don't know your work, then you kind of rely on crutches, what I call, which alhamdulillah, I mean, I never had to bother about. And so I taught for almost 8 years at dental school here in Pakistan. We started the ortho program. I taught FCPS ortho for 1 to 3 batches, which was an intake of 4 orthodontist residents. So 12 of those. And my litmus test was that these guys graduate, they do their FCPS fine, but they have to do their MOR from the Royal College in England, and they all did it. I think with the exception of one guy. So out of 12, 11 did it. So, which was my litmus test that I trained them. Okay, so yeah, they're doing well. They're professors now, and I feel proud that they've all done very well.
That's awesome. I have a question.
Yes, sir. Yes,
sir. So Ahad asked about your challenges. I was wondering that when you were making the decision to go back, you must have some fears. You must have the second thought that, am I doing this right or not? Can you walk us through a little bit about what was going in your mind at that time, and how were you thinking the fears that you will have, and how will you overcome them? What was your, action plan?
So it's so if I can go back a little bit to answer this question, I hope you can hear me because you're breaking off.
I can.
You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So going back a little bit, I used to be from the FSC people who graduate and then they go into dental school in Pakistan, or the A-level guys go into dental school. I graduated with my cohorts, and I went to King Edward Medical College, which is recognized as the best medical school in Pakistan, in Lahore. But I never wanted to do dentistry. I never wanted to do medicine, sorry. I never wanted to do medicine. I went to medical school because of that peer pressure, right? And I had to wait for 6 months. At that time, you had to wait for all the dropouts of the medical school to go into dental school, and then the dental classes would start. So there was a lag of about 6 months. So I waited for that time. I went to dental school. So that was the first challenge in my life. The second was then coming back from the US, and all these the cohorts, the peer pressure, all telling me, at the dental school in Boston, like, why are you going back? You going to waste your time. You can make so much money over here. But I think at the end of the day, you just have to believe in yourself and be a little daring as well. Like, unless you jump in the water, you won't be able to swim. So I
Right.
kind of just plunged in, and then I think it did take longer than it would have taken me to be at one point from, let's say, from point 0 to point 5 to from 5 to 10 in terms of years in Pakistan. It could have been accelerated if I was in the US, but then in Pakistan, you get that notoriety, that celebrity status. Eventually, you
Right.
become one of a kind. You're one of the very few ones, and then of course you bring a unique service to your own people. Other than pediatric dentistry, which is now pretty routine for me, all the pumps and crowns and all that stuff that we do, the routine ortho that I do. I think um, the most satisfying work for me that I do now is the cleft work that I do for these young kids, infants, the newborns. So
Absolutely.
that's something that didn't exist here. So yeah, I think there are challenges, but then there are challenges everywhere. I know there are challenges in the US as well, because I work there as well. There are challenges in the Middle East. I worked in Middle East for 8 years. I mean, I used to shuttle back and forth.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right.
Really?
So maybe that I can answer more in the next question if you have.
Sure.
Nice.
The same thing you were talking about, the advantages and disadvantages. I was wondering that how working with people or patients, in our case, of the same culture, same language, is more helpful, or is that an advantage? And what are the disadvantages working with the so-called our people, if we say like that?
So, like everything, it has its pros and cons. The pros would be like that you can speak in the same lingo, they can understand you. You they know how a doctorate is at a certain level and considered at a certain level in Pakistan.
Right.
Whereas over here, I think the issue is that people don't trust the doctor. This I still feel. Like you tell the patient or the parent, like your child has 4 cavities and these would need pulps and crowns and all that, and then I have to do 4 sealants, and maybe there might be a proximal that I have to do a composite or something. They would say, Doctor Saab, I thought there were only 2 fillings that were required. So I mean, this would still happen to this day. So then I have to bring them and I have to tell them and show them, like, look this, and then I have to show them on the bite wings or the x-rays, and you still have to explain everything. Whereas in the US, and since you're working there and I've worked there and I'm still working there at times, I mean, you say that your kid has 8 cavities, the parents would not come back and ever question you that, where are those cavities, show me.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
I think out of 10, maybe 1 parent would get up and ask you, and that too would be an immigrant parent, not a local US parent.
No, I mean, I kind of agree with you, but also locals have some of them do have that trust element. I think it depends where you're working and the population. But yeah, that's an interesting. I thought the other way, actually. I thought that people in Pakistan, because we kind of like traditionally have that paternalistic mindset of doctor. If the doctor tells you this is how you do it, that's how you do it. That's how I was brought up, right? Like with my parents, they would be like, "Nahi, Doctor Saab told you to do this, so you're gonna do this." But here, people question you, and which I like, because that's more of a intellectual discussion. It's more evidence based, so I can tell them that I get many like anti-fluoride patients or anti-vaccination. So there's that exchange, but I can agree with you as well. I cannot know because I haven't really practiced in Pakistan. But yeah, somewhat like
I think
I feel
I think that's the difference between doctor and the dentist. They don't trust the dentist, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah,
I guess.
and I think the other issue is that over here, generally we in our profession, we are not very forthcoming. I mean, there's a tendency, and there's a tendency of overtreatment in the US as well. By the way, I mean, I have seen
Yeah.
there's a huge tendency to overtreat. But I think one thing that I learned, and again for you all guys who are starting your careers and all that, if you treat the patient the way you would treat your own daughter or your own son, and the parents of your patients know that this is what you will do for your own child, they will trust you.
Right.
So never undertreat a kid, never overtreat a kid. So
True.
it
Absolutely.
takes a little while for them to develop that confidence in you, but once it's developed, then with word of mouth, it just spreads like wildfire. So, but it has happened. It took time, but it's happened now. I mean, I get referrals from as far as from Afghanistan, Dubai,
Wow.
and all these places.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, Lahore, Faisalabad, Gujranwala, these are like in local areas like.
And there's also one thing that I see in Pakistan. Again, I have very little experience in Pakistan, but I saw a little bit of insecurity in the dentist that they don't tend to refer the cases, because if they refer out, then the patient will stay at the other doctor. So do you feel like that you're getting enough referrals that you should be getting, or like what's the story?
So, so I think this is something that it's very. I would say it's a concept that doesn't exist in the minds of people who are trained in the US. Like, how can you survive without a referral? In Pakistan, nobody refers. My only referrals has been in the last 25 years through pediatricians, mostly, through parents whose children I've treated, and through word of mouth. And then maybe there was this one dentist who used to refer to me. So basically, they're just word of mouth and pediatricians, and those pediatricians are also like a few and far between. You would sometimes get a referral from outside of the city, but not from within the city. Because from outside the city, these people would. But nowadays, with all these social media and all that stuff that you guys have, people find out very quickly like who is what, and even in Pakistan, you say a name Ahad, and they would do Ahad, and they'll search you, and they know, okay, this is a good dentist. They'll check your reviews and all that stuff, and then they'll come to you.
Yeah.
So late in the last 4 or 5 years, I think that's the trend. That's also catching up over here. But like back in the US, like I have the referrals from all these health centers and all these other dentists and all that. That I look at, when I look at my computer over there,
Yeah.
oh, there's nothing like this over here. Nobody refers here.
Is that because like people are able to manage patients, or is it because of like they don't want patients to go somewhere else? And if they're keeping those patients, how are they managing?
Yeah, so there are two aspects to this. One, we as dentists over here, we feel like if we are not able to do everything that that patient needs, and I'm talking especially about general dentists, then that's like, doctor, you can't even treat a kid. Like, what's the big deal? It's a doodh ka dant,
Right.
Right.
So it's like, I think it's an ego thing as well. So like I tell people like you pay me 100,000 rupees as well. I cannot do a wisdom tooth. I've never done it in my life. Maybe in my
Right,
house job
right.
I took it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have no qualms and no issues about telling somebody like, look, there's this guy and he can do a better wisdom than I've never done it. So he'll do a better job than me. So at least if you develop that trust with the patient, they start to understand this and then they start to respect you. Unfortunately, we do it one for monetary reasons. We want to hold the patient in our practice, and then secondly, the ego issue as well, I think. And so I think basically these two reasons.
One thing I personally think is that also the regulations. So if here in US you're treating a patient, you're expected as a general dentist, you're expected to provide the same level of care as a specialist if you're not referring a specialist case. So I think the loose maybe regulations in Pakistan also is something that adds to that dilemma. So Dr. Noeen, could you talk about a little bit about when you go back to your country, how can you contribute to building the capacity of the local professionals in your field?
So I actually did it in 2 ways. Basically, I joined a dental school where I started teaching pediatric dentistry to the final year students, and then we started ortho as well to the final year. But then going into postgraduate orthodontic training through CPSP, FCPS training, and all that stuff. So that was my way of reaching out to the next generation, and
Right.
teaching them, inspiring them in whatever way that I could. Maybe, bring them to the OR, show them how things are done. So, in the dental school environment in Pakistan, and you guys have been trained here, that there's limited facility as far as pediatric dentistry is concerned. So I would bring them to my private hospital. These kids would be very excited. They're recording with their cameras, and their
Nice.
phones and all that. So taking X-rays and showing them small things to do. Maybe some of them who were a little more eager to learn and all that. Then, so this was one aspect of reaching out to the to the next generation. The other is I have what I call an internship, which is a 1 month, excuse me, which is a 1 month thing that maybe one or two people can come and work or observe in my office. So they kind of shadow me in the office, and then they can come to the hospital where I work in the morning, and they see kids with clefts and all that kind of work, and then they come to the OR with me and see full mouth rehabs and all that stuff. So, and it kind of every month there's a new kid or a new young dentist. I shouldn't call them kids, but
Perfect. Yeah.
young dentist. So that's another way of and some of these young dentists are actually going abroad, not only to the UK, to the US, but to the UK and Australia as well, and maybe one or two to Canada. So since I've trained in the UK, I've trained in the US. I have a little bit of experience of Canada. I have a huge experience of Middle East because I was there. I was shuttling between back and forth. I was a visiting consultant in Dubai and Doha. So I would come back and forth every 6 weeks to Dubai, to Abu Dhabi and to Doha. So I know the system, how it works with the licensing and all. So a lot of these young dentists who would come, they would have questions about, let's say starting with OREs in the UK to national boards and licensing in the US to the licensing in the Middle East. And then I also taught for 1 year in Singapore at NUS, the National University of Singapore, pediatric dentistry to the fourth year, the final year students over there. So a little bit about the Far East as well. So I was there for about a year. So that was an interesting experience.
Nice.
So yeah, I've been around. So people come, and I think I'm pretty resourceful as far as telling these young dentists as to what to do and where, and answer probably most of their questions about how to fill the application, the essay that you have to write, and all that stuff, the SOP, and how to get your recommendations. And we have a very generic recommendation in Pakistan, as you know. We make it a little more like US type,
Personalized.
So
Yeah.
everybody's very good and highly recommended in Pakistan. You know what I mean? So
Right.
to make it sound a little more personal and all that stuff. So that kind of stuff. And then, of course, nowadays with kids going to do advanced training like you all did, the bench test, because I did Duggan's thing in California, so I know everything about that. For my Western Regional Board. So I tell them about Duggan. So I introduced Duggan to a lot of young dentists in Islamabad and Pindi. And a lot of them have actually gone through it. They've done it. They're in their advanced standings already. As we speak, I think 5 of my students are in their second year of advanced standing in the US in different schools.
Nice.
So yeah, I think, so this is, and the other way of reaching out to the students was, doing what is called a career counseling, like other dental schools where, other than my dental school where I used to teach, they would call me to come and do a career counseling talk, like maybe an hour talk. And then I would divide them into like, you want to go to the US, this is what you have to do. You want to go to the UK, you want to do it in Canada, Middle East. If you want to stay back in Pakistan, these are your options. So, kind of discuss like that. And then, of course, like lectures that you were talking about just now in the break about, going to different forums and doing lectures like on different subjects in pediatrics or ortho or clefts, for PDA, for other local associations and all that. So I think, yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, the way you say it is like it's nothing, but actually it's so much work. And one more thing, you were talking about the cleft lip palate, right? Are you coordinating with any like international organizations or mission trips or anything like that, or do you plan to?
Yeah, so we fortunately in our hospital is a tertiary care hospital, Shifa International, and we have a cleft team over there. So we have a cleft craniofacial team, which includes a pediatric dentist and an orthodontist, which has a very well trained plastic surgeon and a team of plastic surgeons. But the guy that I work with is extremely well qualified, is a great hand, a good human being. Then we have Max Wax, excellent Max Wax. So we have one of my students actually went to North Carolina to do speech and language pathology. So she's a speech therapist. She came back to join the dental school where I used to teach, where she graduated from. So she's an assistant professor in speech pathology, the first of its kind in Pakistan for somebody to come back into dental school. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
so we have all that, and we liaison with. You must have heard of Smile Train.
Mm-hmm.
So Smile Train is an NGO based in the US. I think it's in Texas. I'm not sure. And all these guys like Condoleezza Rice and Bush and all these people are the patrons. And the Smile Train actually pays the hospital a fraction of an amount of the surgery cost that is done for lip and palate repairs and all that, or an alveolar bone grafting in the hospital. Me and the surgeon, the plastic surgeon, we don't charge the fee for our services. So 90 to 95% of the work that we do, me and the plastic surgeon, we don't charge for it. The fraction of amount that they get from Smile Train, the hospital covers the overhead for the theater and the cost of the gases and the drugs and all that stuff.
Right.
So
That's
yeah,
great.
that's the way. That's our payback to the community, to the society.
No, that's wonderful. Um, and I mean, I have always thought about these things, and that's what, like Ahad and I were talking the other day, that if we want to go back, how to contribute back to the country or to our people. I think these are some nice ways. That what you're doing is absolutely wonderful, but I think your being there helps a lot. Like people like us, if we can do webinars, or if we go there. I mean, we're still like early in our careers, but hopefully through your inspiration, I would say we can learn so many things and pick something good, right, Ahad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said during the break, like when I saw Dr. Noeen for the first time in 2008, I was so inspired and I wanted to uh, go out and learn more and understand that what the situation is outside Pakistan. So like we need people like him. We and I'm so happy that I met him and I added him on Facebook, and then he came to Boston, and I just randomly like texted him, "Dog, are you in Boston?" And he was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Why?" I attended your course.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
And we connected, and then you were in the same school, and the girls are there.
Yeah.
So
But I think there is also one thing different about you is I think you are approachable to the general population and your students. So that's one thing. In Pakistan, there is a lot of fear as well. Like as a student, that you were kind of resistant to contact your professors because you don't know what kind of response you'll get. Either you get one or nothing. So, but I think that's one thing that everyone should have. That
one
you're
thing that
free.
I may add, and if you guys want to help the next generation, because there is a generation after you as well, right? So you're the generation after me, and then there's a generation in the dental schools which is after you. So is to actually reach out. Anybody who wants to reach out to you guys, just help them with whatever information you can give them, and help them with just give them the direction, like this is the path you have to follow. This is what you have to do. Unfortunately, in our country, we still, and I repeat, we still do not have good counseling, and hence a lot of these kids are like headless chickens. Like they don't
Lost.
know
Yeah.
who ask, what to do, how to fill the application, how to write a CV, how to have an SOP, the essay, and all that. And some of these kids are actually very bright kids. Like they just need to be directed.
Yeah.
So given the opportunity, so this is how you
Yeah.
guys, even sitting in the US, you guys can help. Maybe make a forum or something. And this, the one that you have at the moment, you can talk more on this forum and reach out to potential young graduates who want to go to the US to study. I get calls from. I mean, last week I had a call from one of my students. She's in Louisiana doing a GPR, and she wants to do endo. So
Oh,
I said,
nice.
yes, you have to do endo. So that's what I was telling you. You have to do endo. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do actually through this forum, and then more things that we want to uh, that actually help like answer people's question and
Yeah.
let them direct them to the right direction. Um, so you have inspired a lot of people, but who inspired you? What was your driving factor?
Oh, now this becomes very political, but it's not political at all because my inspiration now is the president of the country. I was his
Okay.
patient.
Okay.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, let me say this on record now. I mean, he knows that. He knows that. I mean, he's known me since I was like maybe 8 or 9 years old, and
Okay.
I used to go to him. I actually felt I have burst my central incisor, and I used to go to him, to his dad first, and to him later when he had just come back from Michigan, and
Yes.
so nice, smart, very well dressed, and all that. So I looked up to him. So I come from a family of the fourth generation. There are four generations of doctors in my family, starting from my grandfather to my uncle and aunts, to me, my brother, and then my
Mhm.
daughters and all. So, and I was the one who rebelled, who said that I'm not going to go into medicine. That's why I left King Edward and I went to dentistry. So he was the reason that I did dentistry. He was my inspiration. And so yeah, that's it. And then I think so. He's duly specialized. Like he has prosto and ortho. I have pedo and
Yeah.
ortho. He's
Mm-hmm.
board certified. I'm board certified in our specialties. And so yeah, but I'm not in politics. I don't want to be. I don't have that stamina at all.
Well, he happens to be a dentist who happens to be a president, right? Primarily, he's a dentist,
And
and
Yeah,
how
but
that's
yeah,
that's
how he
how he
that's
inspired.
inspired you.
great, which is great. And he's represented the country on different dental platforms as well, FDA and the PAO, and he started the FCPS in Karachi at his practice. So yeah,
People know him. I'm in Michigan, right? So the dental community knows him. That the president of Pakistan is a
here and the
dentist,
Pacific people, they know him. Yeah.
Right.
right?
So yeah, so that's the story of my life. Yeah.
Great.
So,
Great.
do you have a question?
I think we have asked him a lot of questions.
We did.
Yeah.
One last question I do want to ask, and
Yeah, sure.
that what do you think are the main like characteristics? What are the main characteristics of a person to be successful and to achieve their goals, in your opinion?
Oh, so you need to. So this is something that a lot of people ask me, and a lot of young graduates who come here and they want to go to the US or to UK or wherever, and they say it's people tell us it's not doable. It's very difficult. You can't do it. So I think you need to put your blinders on. Like I always say to everybody, you need to keep your blinders on. Don't look right and left. Just focus and go for it. So you'll hit the wall maybe once, you'll hit the wall again twice, and then you go through it. So, but if you lose your focus, then you will never reach anywhere. So, like, I want to go to America, so I want to go to America, and period. And then, like, one of my uncles used to tell me, and who's my actually mentor, my godfather, he would say that take the word impossible out of your dictionary. So, there's nothing impossible in this world. You just have to be persistent, you just have to be focused, you just have to go and crash the gates, do it. So that's what he used to say. Get up, dress up, go, crash the gates. So I think that's what we did. That's what a lot of kids who come to me, I tell them like, stay focused. Maybe the first cycle that you go through, you may not get into advanced learning or the specialty programs or whatever, but that doesn't mean that you won't get in the next time. You will get in. So just keep trying. And then we are also a little shy, and I keep telling them you need to reach out to the program director, like write them an email, say that you're interested in their program, you want to come, do some research, find out who's the endodontist there, you want to apply to the endo program, find out what research is he doing, find out who he is, what is his interest, talk to him, email him. We are very shy. Like we would apply and then we'll sit and then, we're waiting for the answer to come, and then like, oh, we didn't get it. You need to reach out, because see, if I am the program director and 5 of you guys are applying and everybody's so good on the CV and everything, how do I decide? I decide because Ahad's been emailing me like 10 times, like, hey, I want to come to your program. I'm really looking forward to it. Your program is the best. You offer this, that. So I'm like, this guy seems interested. Let's call him for an interview. And my job is done.
That's true.
So I think you need to reach out to these people as well. You shouldn't be shy.
Good. So, Dr. Noeen, thank you so much for coming to our podcast. It was truly an honor, and it was such a pleasure to have you and learn from your experiences and your thoughts. So, we're really grateful that you were here, and hopefully, maybe in the future, if you have some time, we might have some topics, because we really enjoyed talking to you. So, we'll get in touch with you.
I feel so inspired again.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a phone call with you, and I think you need to do what you need to do now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just do it, man. I mean, see, this is another thing that I tell everybody, that the most important denominator in life is time. So that's the most important denominator. Like 5 years from now, your circumstances will change. You may not be able to do what you want to do now.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you want to do it, just do it now. So don't wait.
Perfect.
And thank you very much for having me. It's always
It's
great
our pleasure, yeah.
to you guys, and it's great to connect with Fahad also. And I think you guys are doing a tremendous job. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
Make it more regular. Get more people on board. Reach out to the younger dentist. I think that's where the change in our country is going to be. That's how, I used to tell the younger generation, like, you guys are going to be the catalyst of change in this country. Like things that we couldn't do in our times, you will do it.
Right.
Like they will be referring patients to their colleagues, and, things like what happened in the US, they will hopefully be the catalyst. So thank you again. Thank you for having me, and best of luck to you both.